This is TWiT.
Let's talk about Jeff Bezos. This is a really interesting story that has developed over the past week. Of course, you remember last year, Jeff Bezos, who was at the time married, was busted over his relationship with Lauren Sanchez, his new girlfriend. He's gotten divorced since. And you remember probably the National Enquirer attempting to blackmail him with pictures and texts from his romantic liaison. And he went very public with it, went to Medium, published an article saying, "I will not be blackmailed. Here's what they're doing." It was great. I enjoyed it. And when you're the richest man in the world, you can do that, right? You know, that talk about privilege. You can do that.
Oh, well, again, I mean, not only did it give us some great headlines, which, you know, is what the Reg is about, but it was that just like, yeah, okay, publish and be damned. You know, it's you want to write this. I'm not going to submit to blackmail. I give a lot of respect.
Good for him. Yeah,
that.
respect. Then at the time, the Enquirer said we got it from Lauren Sanchez's estranged brother, who got access to her phone and then was able to get the stuff off it and send it to the National Enquirer. Gavin de Becker, well-known security expert, was hired by Bezos to do an investigation. That seemed to be the result of the investigation. And then all of a sudden, new news came out last week. A security firm that I'm not familiar with, maybe you are, was it RTI? Was that their name?
FTI.
FTI, that's right. FTI did an analysis of Bezos' phone and concluded that he was hacked by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. He was apparently in a WhatsApp conversation with MBS. At some point in the conversation, MBS sent him a file, which, according to this investigation, then exfiltrated contents of Jeff's phone to the Saudi prince, and presumably at that point passed it along to the National Enquirer. The FTI said we medium to high confidence on this.
Yes. So,
and a number of security experts, including Matthew Green and Alex Stamos, who used to be at Tech Security, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer at Facebook, who owns WhatsApp. He said this is a little suspect, this finding.
And he's been very critical of Facebook, so it's not like he's just
he's not defending his
supporting the company.
Yeah.
So for the news consuming audience at home, I want to clarify this from a news analysis perspective. So what we're talking about, all of this noise around this, is based on the claims, the unproven claims of a single person and theoretically his organization.
You mean FTI?
Yes.
So this is one guy?
To be fair, they did finger the Saudis a couple of months ago with the initial investigation, and that was from Bezos' own crew.
Yes.
But I take your central point. Yeah.
Yes.
Furthermore, we know that WhatsApp is vulnerable to precisely this kind of hacking. So that's not new. Even an iPhone, and Jeff Bezos said an iPhone 10, is vulnerable. So this is not impossible.
Well, the way you do a forensic analysis on something like this is first of all, you have to decrypt the loader and all that stuff, which he didn't do. The best thing to do is to go to Apple.
And this was the thing that puzzled Stamos and Green. Why didn't he? The keys would be on the device. Why did they not decrypt the bootloader and see if the evidence of the hacking?
That's right. This massive amount of the story goes that he received this file, he opened the video, and then suddenly his phone just started pumping data out. The amount of data that was being pumped out supposedly is less than 500K.
Yeah, so I read 500 megs in one case and 500K in another.
I'd heard
his baseline data use was 430 kilobits.
Exactly.
But after the invention, that jumped up to gigabit levels.
I see. So the baseline. So the baseline is even lower.
Which also sounded really dodgy because if you're using a mobile phone, you're easily sending out more than 430.
So that would indicate maybe this wasn't his primary phone. It was a phone he used just for WhatsApp, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, okay, I misread that part, but the fact is that there's something fishy going on around FTI because they need to go to Facebook and or Apple or somebody else who will do a real analysis and find out what really happened. What we think we know is that he sent him a file and then his phone started acting funny.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that video file. They found no trace of malware, which doesn't mean there wasn't malware that didn't erase itself.
Lots of malware erases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just from a news analysis point of view, this is entirely based on a claim, and that claim is entirely unproven to date. And I would love to see it proved.
Yeah, I mean, because security,
In other words, there's circumstantial evidence, but there's no smoking gun at this point.
Facebook's argument is WhatsApp was not backdoored or was not vulnerable to this. And on the grounds of it, I would say that's probably correct, in that if you're going to bundle simple malware with something and you're the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, that's, you are going to get it through to the richest man in the world because he takes your phone calls. So I don't think it's a flaw in WhatsApp itself. I think possibly the video file, but again, we need evidence that this actually happened.
Well, one possibility that isn't discussed enough is the possibility that there was no hack, no malware, nothing. Right? We have not seen evidence.
That it's solely down to his paramour's brother feeding this to National
And
Enquirer.
the timing doesn't fit either. So there's the problem with the timing of this whole thing.
So And Patrick, just chime in if you have anything you'd like to say. Why would somebody make this up?
Well, one person who has a motive here is the sister of the girlfriend. The brother of the girlfriend, who
he'd like to get off the hook.
Has been accused of leaking information about their affair.
But does he know the FTI folks?
Well, I don't know.
He's a TV producer. I can't see him having that many sort of contacts.
There is, unfortunately, a political undercurrent to this as well. And the nexus is between Saudi Arabia, the president, the National Enquirer, and Jeff Bezos.
And the Washington Post.
And the Post.
And Khashoggi.
Yeah.
And
Khashoggi in particular.
Yeah. So we know that the president is not a big fan of Bezos or the Washington Post.
Right.
We know that Saudi Arabia is implicated in the murder of Khashoggi, a Washington Post
I think implicated is going a little easy on
we pretty much know
there were hacksaws involved.
Yeah. We know that Saudi Arabia has a close relationship to President Trump because of military weaponry sold.
Saudi Arabia is also invested in the National Enquirer. They ran a very positive Saudi edition.
Well, if you start tarring people with that brush, Saudi Arabia has invested in almost every Silicon Valley startup we talk about.
This is true.
Because their sovereign fund is a very active venture capital fund.
All of whom hate Amazon. Oh, my God.
So I guess if you're looking for motive, there's multiple possibilities.
It's like Knives Out.
It's like Knives Out. Everybody did.
Everybody is a suspect.
Don't tell me I haven't seen it. Well, that's interesting. Do you have a thought about this, Patrick?
Well, it sounds outlandish. It sounds outrageous.
That's why it sells copies of the newspaper, because it's great. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia hacked the world's richest man is a great story.
But the thing that is really surprising is that the case that you just laid out, which is the case that everyone is laying out, does make sense. It could actually be a motive for, of course, the Secret Service of Saudi Arabia to go to MBS and tell him, hey, if you want this done, maybe we can do it like this, and he might agree. It wouldn't seem completely outlandish that would actually take place, which is why this story kind of has legs with all of the caveats we need to apply. Yeah, it could make sense, and it's so outlandish that it shouldn't, but it kind of does. So I guess that's the world we live in.
We live in, unfortunately, a post-fact world where it's very difficult to get to the truth of anything anymore.
Which is precisely why we need a real forensic analysis. The evidence is sitting there on somebody's desk.
Yeah.
And everybody's speculating and on these.
Why would we care? Somebody in the chat room saying it's just a rich guy being hacked. Why would we care?
No, wait, no. What? No. This is an attempt to manipulate one of the richest people in the world, and so that means one of the people who has the most power in the world.
And furthermore, owns a newspaper that is currently at odds with the President of the United States.
Yes, obviously we care. This is why it's a big story.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they were... Okay, for me, the thing that got this was, if this was going to work, then the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia must be sending out malware. Now, we haven't worked out who it's from. NSO Group's been mentioned, Gamma Group's been mentioned. There's a whole bunch of companies who will cheerfully sell to governments decent quality malware capable of getting through most mobile phones. But it's just, a bloke gets hacked, but why are they doing this? And the fact that Bezos went so public with it. He's definitely not going to lay down and take this one. And
So
when you-
why doesn't Bezos confirm or deny, or his team confirm or deny that report?
Well, it's the same old problem that you get with any computer intrusion problem, in that there is never any concrete proof. Yes, this definitely came from here or from there. I'm still hearing people saying, with very little proof, that the North Koreans are responsible for this, or the minute you hear advanced persistent threat, that's basically an excuse for a security company saying our code didn't work, and this is now being applied to the highest echelons of government, and that's why we should be concerned.
The report, okay, you want to add more conspiracy? This is
Yes.
just made for conspiracy theory. FTI Consulting is Anthony J. Ferranti. He's a former FBI investigator who also worked on the hack of the Democratic National Committee in 2016 by the Russian nation-state
on the side of
hackers.
Obama.
He investigated on the side of
exactly.
Obama.
He wasn't involved in the hack. Investigation.
Just to give the facts according to the report from FTI, what they couldn't find any malware, but they were able to find what looked to be a video of telecommunications video that had been sent to Jeff Bezos with an encrypted downloader. The file shows an image of the Saudi flag and Swedish flags. Arrived with an encrypted downloader. Investigators decided that it was suspicious only because immediately after within hours of receiving the encrypted downloader, the amount of data being sent from the phone leaped from 430K, as you mentioned, to 126 megabytes, and then maintained an unusually high average of 100 megabytes of egress of data a day for another month, including many massive and highly atypical spikes of egress data. So that's why it's circumstantial. The phones started behaving differently after receiving this video. We couldn't find anything wrong with the video. We couldn't find a malware, but there's this evidence that the phone started to do something. Of course, there's many ways you could explain that. Maybe Jeff just decided to start using that phone more. We don't know. So, and you're right. That's why Gavin DeBecker and Jeff Bezos need to kind of get in.
I mean,
DeBecker
I'm sure if he started to use the phone more enough to justify this, he would have said, no, I just started watching porn or something.
And by the way, FTI got the phone because it was given, I presume, given to them.
Well, I mean, DeBecker is actually a good security guy. From what I've seen of his past work, he knows what he's talking about, but he's also paid by Jeff Bezos. So you have to include that into your calculation as to whether or not this is true. But I don't think they'd be making the accusation unless they had some fairly solid claims. I'm seeing a few people. Rob Graham at the InfoSec, Rob. He's a professional controller and he's coming out against this. But some of the stuff he's coming up with sounds, there are questions to be raised over this.
There are two black boxes, actually. One of them is the phone itself and the evidence that it contains that nobody's getting at. And the second one is the palace intrigue of the Saudi government. We really don't know, the idea that the crown prince himself, I mean, he's a bloodthirsty, evil murderer, but he's not stupid. And for him to directly send malware sounds
it's been really nice knowing you, Mike. I appreciate it.
I've lived a good life. Sorry, but you don't know if you don't know if there's like other machinations going on. You don't know if he left his phone.
It feels like it's far too complicated for us to untangle.
And you see, I for one welcome our Saudi overlords. And I'd like to point out that I could be of great help in the future. No, I mean,
by the way, FTI kind of bungled this because during the initial attempt to collect the forensic information, FTI determined the device had an iTunes backup encryption enabled. Good. That's what you should do. And that full analysis of the content would require the encryption password. Now, apparently Bezos or whoever backed it up never gave them that password because then the investigators, quote, tested options for bypassing the password encryption. We don't know of a way to do that, and ended up resetting all settings on the iPhone X to factory default, thereby removing any encryption password while preserving the file system and relevant data. So,
which itself is a little suspicious, I think.
The whole thing is a mess.
I don't like any of it.
And everybody involved has a hidden agenda or less hidden agenda. For instance, Bezos might be under pressure from his new girlfriend to exonerate her brother.
Yeah.
And who the hell knows? And we do care because I think this is you're right. You made a good case, Patrick, for caring, but I don't know if we'll ever know.